What is the single bloodiest battle in the Pacific theater of World War II? What was the last major offensive operation in the Pacific? How did the United States finally manage to get close enough to Japan to start bombing raids on the mainland? And how did they capture one of the most heavily defended islands in the entire war? The answer to all of these questions is Iwo Jima. The Battle of Iwo Jima was fought between February 19th and March 26, 1945, and only lasted 5 weeks, but it was one of the bloodiest battles in the entire Pacific. The Japanese had turned the small island of Iwo Jima into a fortress. It was only 3.5 miles off the coast of Japan, and the US wanted to use it as an emergency landing field for bombers, in case they had to make an emergency landing on their way back from a bombing run over Japan. About 21,000 Japanese soldiers were defending the island, entrenched in tunnels, bunkers, and caves. They were dug in so deep that when the US ships started pounding the island with their big guns before the landing, most of them were hidden underground and survived the bombardment. Only a lucky few were killed by artillery, machine gun, and minefields. Those that survived the initial assault then picked off the Marines as they tried to dig in. For 5 weeks, the Marines fought to try and take the island. The fighting was so close and intense that sometimes the only thing separating the two sides was a few feet of dirt. The Japanese defenders made the US pay dearly for every inch of ground. They did not resort to banzai charges, but rather focused on slowing the Americans down and wearing them out. The plan was to make the island so costly to capture that the US would eventually give up and pull back. But there was one small problem with this plan. The US Marines were able to raise the American flag atop Mount Suribachi on February 23, 1945. This iconic moment was captured in the famous photograph by Joe Rosenthal. 5 days later, the island was secured and the flag still stands as a symbol of sacrifice, determination, and victory. Of the 70,000 US Marines involved in the invasion, over 26,000 were casualties, nearly 7,000 of them killed. Of the 21,000 Japanese defenders, only about 200 were taken prisoner, so almost all of them were killed. Iwo Jima was the largest marine amphibious assault in history up to that point, and it was a turning point in the Pacific War. Although the island was small, its strategic value was huge. The island